What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Lumix Live this week. We've got a pretty chill stream for everybody today. So we're going to take it a little easier. Really just wanted to kind of just have a chat session with y'all. I do have a camera hooked up, so in case we want to talk about, kind of demoing some features or talk about some capabilities, we have that technology. We have the capabilities to do it. But we are also trying something new on this particular stream. So YouTube made an announcement, it looks like last month, to allow vertical and horizontal streaming simultaneously. And it's definitely new. Like I see Joseph, I think, checking with some others to kind of see how this is working out in the viewer verse side. But supposedly we are broadcasting our normal 16:9 stream right here, but we're also broadcasting in vertical 9:16 out to somewhere on YouTube. So if you are someone who is watching this in the vertical format, let me know. If you're not seeing it, we'll have to dig in and see how it actually works and if it is doing what it kind of says it should be doing. So yeah, we're gonna try it out, see how it works. Supposedly this is good for the channel and viewership and all of that fun stuff. So that's why I figured, for today, let's kind of take it a little bit easier on a stream. So if you've never joined these broadcasts before, these are the live events that we do where you have access to talk to us. Lumix, I am a representative of the brand, if you've never met me or know who I am. Where we get to basically just chat and just have a conversation. You get to talk directly to the brand. So whatever questions you have, whatever, topics you want to talk about, you can drop them in the chat, tag at Lumix USA, just so I can see it on my side. And we can go through a lot of it. I do have my camera hooked up here, so we can actually walk through a demo on, I think this is my S1II. So we can talk about features, kind of cover them there, walk through menus and all that stuff. It's a little bit of a different format than we normally have for the normal 16:9 viewership because I sized it so I could do both. So this will be a little bit of a learning experience in that sense. But outside of that, we'll kind of jump into it. One template I didn't get fixed to do both vertical and horizontal, so if you are viewing this vertically, sorry, is Lumix Pro Services. It's our service and support program. If you've just purchased a new camera, get yourself registered on Lumix Pro Services Red. It is free. We do have a Platinum tier available as well. The Platinum tier is a paid level service that gets you the extended 3-year manufacturer warranty, which the Red gets you as well. But on top of that, you're going to get 2-day repairs with next day shipping both ways, 20% off out of warranty service, annual sensor cleanings, lens calibration, firmware updates, all of that kind of fun stuff. If you are someone who definitely, demands more out of your service and support. So I encourage you to take a look at that. Links are down in the description. So even though if you're on the traditional viewership of this, there's a QR code you can click. If you are watching this in 9:16, check out the link description below for what's available in your region. We have this set for Lumix USA, or for the US region right now. So let's kind of dive into it. As a reminder, if you have questions, tag at Lumix USA, and we'll try to get through as many of them as we can today. So the first one that came in, or if you even have a comment you want me to read it, tag us. I'll likely read it unless it's something totally off the wall. But so let's hear it. It says concept for video lighting. This is from FC. Concept for video lighting. Camera sends pulses on the hot shoe to a video LED on the hot shoe to turn on the light in sync with the shutter, i.e. 180 degree shutter angle will turn the light on 50% to save the LED battery life. It could be an interesting idea. I think, I don't know if LEDs would be able to respond fast enough. I mean, they can respond fast enough, but I don't know if LED companies would be able to respond fast enough to something like that. You would be setting probably also a new standard that would have to be created for communication that way. It's an interesting idea. I think while, yeah, the idea of potentially saving battery life could theoretically make sense, I question if it's like in a car, for say, when you go to start a car, you have like your cold crank voltage, and then you have your, kind of standard voltage that the battery's designed for. And in some cases, you can actually have spikes of power at the beginning, so it may end up being a net negative to do that. But it's a cool idea. We could always, I'll ask around about it. I don't think it's something that would ever happen anytime soon, but could definitely ask about it and see what's going on. So, next one, Matthew Danew. How's it going, Matthew? It says, who is your favorite Lumix YouTuber? Only one right answer. Yeah, myself. Let's go with that one. Because I know what I'm going to say. I know what I'm going to do. There you go. How's that for an answer? Is that the right answer? Well, oh well. All right, let's see. Just got the 2x teleconverter for the 70-200 f4. Found by trial that it will focus better in hybrid zoom. Interesting. I don't have any teleconverters here at the moment, so I haven't been able to actually do any kind of testing with the teleconverters. Even with like the new 100 to 500. I'm hoping I can get a set of them back. I had really didn't have a need for my samples for a while, so I had lent them out. But yeah, you can take a look at it. Where were we? Art Vision. We have been pretty pleased, just waiting to see what else you have in the pipeline. I don't know. We've been. Yeah, I there's always stuff in development and always kind of fun stuff coming, but yeah, nothing to talk about now, at least as of today. So, Victor says, is there an intentional color science difference between the S1II and the S1R2, S1IIe, or any visible difference is just random and they should be the same? So, this actually brings up a good point. I think Kofi actually touches on this in his recent series that he's doing on some of the new cameras, and all sensors do have inherent like kind of color differences between them. There is, I'm not 100% sure the kind of exact science behind it, but sensors do respond differently than each other, and companies will try to get them as close as they can. But in some cases, you will see subtle differences, and it could be things from, different dynamic range, operating modes, whether or not the sensors run at higher bit depth or lower bit depth, because we know that can affect color as well. But particularly between the S1II, the S1R2, and the S1IIe, you are working with three completely different sensors. The S1II sensor, famously, as we've talked about, is a partially stacked BSI CMOS sensor. The S1R2 is a BSI non-stacked sensor, and the S5II, or the S1IIe sensor, is a more traditional BSI type 24 megapixel full frame sensor. Each one will operate a little different. When you're on the new series, your engines are going to be designed to get them as close as they can, but you will still always have a subtle difference between them. So it's not random. They're designed to be pretty close, but most of the time you see differences in perceived color differences between it because of other factors, not just underlying, color difference. Sometimes your dynamic range could be changing it out. The bit depth that the file is recorded from is different between them. So that's probably more what you see between those three particular cameras. But that's where shooting in things like RAW or a log profile are designed to kind of minimize some of that, so that I can take a, let's talk in RAW sense. I can take ProRes RAW from an S1R2, ProRes RAW from an S1II, and ProRes RAW from an S1IIe, bring them into software, and because it's raw data, I can normalize them all. I can bring them all together. Usually in a case like that, you're going to pick what your style is, your look, the color, the way you want it all shown, and then you're going to match all of them to that. In some cases, that's where a LUT would come in, so that you're having it interpret colors all the same way, so that red is interpreted this way, blue isn't this way, green is this way. And then that can get you all to a very normalized place. Yeah. I found out Frameline in Lumix Flow on my iPhone doesn't work. I connect them via USB-C. Have you met this? Not 100% sure what you mean by Frameline. You mean like multiple frame markers, or not 100% sure? If you can clarify what you mean, I can try to dig in and get you some info on that in particular. Let's see here. Art says, I recently broke down some DR tests with a bunch of cameras, and man, the S1II is outstanding and also has one of the best compressions in H.265. Nothing else on the market touches it. Yeah, there's something very special about, well, a couple of things. Some of the stuff that we do with H.265 compression, so even though we're in 420 10-bit, I think, I've seen really good examples from Connor McCaskill. I've seen really good examples from Kofi, from Cam, actually like showing you like in a way that, like, for one, none of us would probably ever really shoot that way. Really pushing a grade as hard as you can, basically for the purpose of breaking it. To show the differences between like 422 and 420 and the compression levels that everyone uses that are different. Traditionally, I think we've always gotten some, kind of extra sauce out of the sensors that we work with in the various cameras. It's what gives the S1 Mark II, I mean, according to Cine D, like the highest dynamic range outside of some of the, kind of longest standing high-end cameras. Especially within its category, it's leading. So, and it has modes that extend it into the highest area and modes that let you kind of run with different benefits. So it's all about choice with a lot of our cameras. So, oh, thank you, YouTube. Let's see where some of these other questions are. Why auto review is disabled and grayed out in camera when tethered to Capture One or Lumix Tether? I've had this question before. I did ask the engineers. I think Matt and I have both asked. So I'm not 100% sure why it would be. Just that knowing that, like, in Tether and Capture One, you're probably going to be using those for your auto review because they have much more robust tools in it. But I can ask again if that's something like, what is there a reason why we don't do auto review on the camera? When models stare at video light, they squint for video, so less light would be better for the model looking at the camera with the light on top. Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Going back to the LED thing, like in photography, we always have like red light and stuff, or red eye reduction stuff, and that's because of the reflection of the light hitting the back of the eyeball and then projecting red. Video lights, I can see kind of the same thing. I don't know if that would actually change much, though, because your light intensity would still be the same, and if anything, you may actually have potentials of other problems with it. Look at, like, VR, right? Half the population gets motion sick because of the cycle rate of the panels being so close to your eyes. Some people get motion sick because light's flashing in general. Some people have epileptic issues with flashing lights as well. So there could be way more reasons to not do it than potential benefits from a technical standpoint. Sometimes that has to be taken into account as well, because now you're taking a constant light source and you're effectively turning it into a strobe, and that also could have some other impacts as well. So, how's it going? Any plans for 4x3 RAW options on the GH7? I don't think so. I'd have to double check, because I think we do. I think there is a RAW open gate option over HDMI. I'd have to double check, though. I only just got a GH7 back. It's not To be honest with you, the camera got dropped at NAB, and it's a very early sample of it, so I got to get it serviced. But I can take a look at it because I got a couple monitors here that I can do raw over HDMI with. I don't know if it would be internally though. Yeah. Any plan to develop internal zoom lenses for video like the Nikkor lenses or power zoom lenses? Even if I did know future plans for optics, I wouldn't be able to talk about them. Dennis says, can the battery in the external grip of the S1II and the S1II Series be charged from the camera USB port? If not, is this a hardware limitation or possibly addressed via firmware? So the battery in the newer cameras, the battery in the grip won't be charged over USB. At least I'm fairly certain. I actually have to double check on that one. Let's go on the assumption that they can't be. It would likely be a hardware thing, because power has to be routed a certain way to do stuff like that. But I know, like, on the older cameras that use the BLJ battery, which is the much bigger battery that we came out with for the original S series, this one I know will charge with the battery grip, but that's an entirely different like power distribution system there. So let's see here. Is it Cade, I think? It says, what's the reason that the S1II cannot record some sort of open gate intra mode internally, even if it had to oversample to 4K? Is it hardware or software? I think it's more to do with kind of both to a point. So different compression algorithms, different operating ways that the processors are designed to actually store the footage or encode the footage. For one, when you start doing things like going to 422 or going to an all intra, there's a couple things you need to keep in mind. One of them is that you do increase heat and processor load pretty heavily. You also need a much higher bit rate to get the same relative quality that you would on, say, a 420 long GOP or an HEVC compression. In very general sense, if I'm running, say, 150 megabit HEVC compression or 200 megabit HEVC compression, and I want to get the same image quality with intra in H.264, I would have to, at minimum, double the bit rate. So that 200 would have to be 400. If it was 400, it'd have to be 800. And when you start doing that, you start recording at much higher bit rates, you're encoding a ton more information, your thermals get a lot higher, because you're just encoding way more data. RAW gets around this because it's storing raw data. And the way that compression works is different than HEVC or H.264. A good example of this is if you take a project on your computer, right, and you compress or you export out, as long as your computer can support both H.264 and H.265, which vast majority of them do now, you'll notice that, like, usage, like if you open up a usage tool for like GPU or CPU, usage changes between an HEVC, an H.264, and even like if you're trying to save out as like ProRes. Watch it like the usages between everything. On a computer, it's a little different because you'll see a split between the CPU and the GPU. But in general, the more you are having to process, depending on what component is having to be increased, it generates a lot more heat. So that's likely why you're just not going to see, that's one of the reasons why we don't do 422 or an intra for things like OpenGate. The other thing is that, a lot of people will ask us, why don't we do 422 HEVC? And fact of the matter is that, for one, as far as like PC side goes, my knowledge is that there's only like one generation of GPUs that can hardware accelerate. H.265 and 422. Everything else has to be done typically through CPU, and that causes a pretty decent amount of additional load that you'd have to do. So a lot of people would end up having to either go back to transcoding, which hopefully we can get away from having to do a ton of transcoding, because that just takes up time and all of that. And it's just not as common across all devices that are out there. Mobile devices, that's why we only transfer MP4 or MP4 Lite, because MOV is not widely supported across various different mobile devices. A lot of apps don't even recognize MOV as a video format that you can edit mobilely. So, and they only do MP4. So a lot of that's what goes into it, is across the board, what is the most usable system? What is the, kind of best use of the hardware and software that provides the best balance of compatibility and image quality? And in our case, we typically push the image quality side a heck of a lot higher. So you would also have to push the other components much higher as well to keep that level of quality. So, Jeremy, do you know if FTP for wireless tethering has been considered for future cameras? I think it's been talked about. FTPs are relatively old and more specialized function for it, so I don't think we're going to see it in any of our cameras. How's it going, Rat? XY, could you make all the resolutions in 2430 FPS be in full frame in the S1 and S1R2? I understand if it was the readout speed limitation, but if not, it would be nice to have the consistency. 24 and 30 frames per second in the S1 and S1R2 are all full frame. Not sure if I'm understanding what you mean. Yeah. Not 100% sure what you mean. On the S1, the original S1, 4K 60 would have to be cropped, but 24 and 30 frame would be full sensor width. OpenGate's a little different. OpenGate will depend on generation of the sensors, the processors being used, that kind of thing. So if you can clarify XY, what you mean by full frame and that they're not, or maybe I'm just completely misunderstanding your question, but yeah. Where were we? Wow, lots of questions today. This is awesome. Michael says, I use S1R2 for landscape. Is Lumix leaning on Sigma Art for pro lenses? I shoot mostly landscape. I love my pro 14 to 35, 51.4, 24 to 70, and 7200. Curious if more pro lenses are on the way. Just like the other answer, even if I did know about future plans or lenses or cameras or firmware or any of that kind of stuff, I wouldn't be able to talk to you about any of it until we're making official announcements. So, yeah. I guess another good question is, do you see value on expanding MP4 Lite with 2460, etc., since there is more variation on social media now? Personally, I do. I would love to see MP4 Lite have a 24 and a 60 frame per second option. I think keep in mind, at least as of right now, keep in mind that MP4 Lite was designed for the S9 as a specific social media ready deliverable. The vast majority of social media content is consumed at 30 or 60 frames per second. So that's why it was designed the way it was. Does it mean it's always going to stay that way? No. Or not necessarily. Could there be changes to it to add other frame rates? There's a possibility for it. But as it sits right now, it's at 30 frames per second. So 2997. That's what you have with MP4 Lite. The more of y'all let us know, like, hey, I want to see, expanded frame rates in MP4 Lite, the easier those conversations are for people like Matt and I to have with the engineering team. So the more info you provide us, the more statements you make like that, the better it definitely is for things to potentially change in the future. And that's that's one of the reasons, especially, if you've been watching these streams long enough, that's one of the benefits of these streams is you get to have your voice heard, by the actual teams. So, these are running records of the things that you want to see. I highly recommend that, if you want to make sure that your voice or your comment or your suggestion is heard, to drop it in the comment after this video is published. The chat is one thing, it's easy for me to see it, but if it's actually in the comments field, that's an easier reference that I can just send the video to our engineers and say, hey, check out the comment field. This is what people are saying that they want. So it helps them understand what exactly it is that y'all want to see in cameras. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be able to be executed. Let's be clear on that. But it just makes that communication line a heck of a lot easier and smoother, so it's not having to be interpreted by others, right? Interpretation of people's requests is one of the things that always ends up causing like a miscommunication of it, right? So, yeah, let's see. Let's see here. Andy says, is tethering to a PC or Mac over Wi-Fi only possible using Capture One, or is there another way? Well, Lumix tether software, it only works with wired, correct? Yeah. So, well, yeah. Kind of. I know that was a whole lot of nothing for that answer. So if you're in photography, yes, wireless tethering to a computer is only possible through Capture One. Capture One has the tools built into it. We've worked with them to make sure that the tether functionality is working the way it's supposed to. So you have that access there. Lumix tether, on the other hand, only works over USB or Ethernet if your camera has the Ethernet capabilities. Two different designs of what those apps are for. Remember, Lumix tether is designed much, much more as a video tool than a photographic tool. It will work for photography. I'm not saying that you can't use it and that it's not useful for that. But it's just not designed the same way that Capture One, which is designed as a photographic tool for wireless and wired streaming, wired and wireless capture, would be. There's different tools there. I found out the frame marker in Lumix Flow on my iPhone doesn't work. I connect them via USB-C. Have you met this? Oh, okay. Now I understand. Frame marker. I'll have to check into the frame markers. So for those that don't know, we have frame markers in our cameras. They allow you to do vertical, horizontal, various different aspect ratios can be applied as an overlay on the screen. I believe on Lumix Flow, you only have a 16:9 frame marker that can pop up, or might be 239:1. So that's just how the app is designed. But I'll talk with the engineering team and the app team to see, is that something that could potentially change, and then yeah, we'll let you know. SN, I don't let go of this. Please bring auto capture like Nikon does to the S5II. I've asked if auto capture stuff would be possible. I don't know if it's going to be possible. At minimum, I don't know if it's going to be possible on an S5II series camera. Jake, could the G9 Mark II get focus stacking again? Also, nice looking haircut. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Sometimes you'll notice, if you watch these things, you can tell, like, timing. My hair will be crazy. Where were we? Yeah, the G9 Mark II getting focus stacking. I'll ask. I honestly don't know. I don't know if that combination of sensor and engine, or that version of the engine, has the capabilities, because like in the S1II series we added focus stacking. So I don't know if the version of the engine in the Micro Four Thirds cameras is capable of it, but I'll ask. Can you magnify the EVF on the S1II or S1IIe like on the S1II, or is it fixed? It's fixed. It's not. It doesn't have the same. The original S1s had the ability, and the original S9 or G9 actually had the ability to change view magnification or view mode because of how large the screen was in the viewfinder. That's not something that's carried forward in the newer cameras. Do you have a suggestion or recommendation for an external monitor? Blackmagic versus Atmos. I would be interested in raw capabilities, but not necessary. It would be used on an S1II Series. Both monitors can do really well for you. It's going to come down to, I think, more what your general preference would be. So if we just look at just raw capabilities of the different monitors, right? You've got Atomos, Ninja Series, or whichever monitors you want. And I'm assuming ones with raw capabilities for this comparison. So you have, like, let's say Ninja 5 Ultra. And then you've got the Video Assist, 5-inch 3G, 12G, or 12G SDI HDR monitor. If you just look at the raw capabilities of both, raw as in just their general capabilities, they're both HDMI connection. The Blackmagic gives you micro SDI or whatever it is in, so I have to look at one to remember. So I get SDI in and out on the Video Assist 12G. I have HDMI in and out, which I have on the Atomos as well. You have your 12-volt power directly on this. On the Atomos, you need an adapter that goes into the NPF battery slot. The Blackmagic allows you to do 2 batteries. The Atomos device only lets you do 1. The Video Assist lets you record to SSD over USB-C or to an SD card. The Ninja 5 series, you have to record to an SSD that's in the caddy. Recording formats are going to be different between both. The Atomos device is only going to let you record, well, not only, it's going to let you record ProRes, ProRes RAW, H.265, and the Avid format as well. The Blackmagic one is going to let you record ProRes, Blackmagic RAW. I think that's it. I think there might be a couple other formats as well. It's just differences of what you prefer. If you're someone who really likes to work in Resolve and you want to take advantage of, say, Blackmagic RAW or B-RAW, the answer is kind of clear. You have to go with one of these. If you're shooting in ProRes RAW, the traditional conversation is either one, go for a camera that's got ProRes RAW built in, or you do the Atomos, or you go to the Atomos recorders. They're both going to be fine for you. Personally, I think the battery life is a little bit better on the Atomos, or not on the Atomos, on the Blackmagic monitor. But the Atomos monitor's fine as well. So it's all just kind of choices there. If RAW is not that big of a concern or a necessity for you, it really doesn't matter which monitor you go with. They're both going to be fine. If you're going to be recording in, say, ProRes, that's what you want to be able to record in, either will do perfectly fine. Just look at what inputs and outputs each of them have, or some of their specialized capabilities, like the Atomos recorders can do frame I/O. I don't think the Blackmagic ones can do that, so you just got to look and see what makes the most sense for you. I use Lumix Tether with my S1II, and it's really frustrating not having shortcuts for picture capture specifically. Can this be requested in future updates? Yeah, I mean, you can always request or make suggestions for future updates. You would want to just make sure that you drop your recommendation or your request down in the comments after this video is posted. Chris, any update on multiple frame markers on the S1II? I believe the current firmware only has the option of 1. Chris, message me separately. We did push an update that has multiple frame markers on the cameras, I believe. So yeah, they are there. Might just be on a slightly older version of the firmware. So Is there an easy way to access the high-res menu, not the mode, on the S1II? I had high-res mode set to a function button, but this is not possible anymore. On the S1. I think it depends. The cameras that have high-res mode on the mode dial, that's what you would do to get to the menu. Yeah. I don't... Yeah. Yeah, since it's part of the mode dial, it's not going to be something that's like menu operated. Like if you're on an S9, it's menu operated for the most part. You would press down on the directional pad and then go to high res. But the menu should always be visible. It's more a matter of if it's designed to go for the dial, it's not necessarily going to be like menu accessible to toggle it on and off, because you have to be in that mode for it. So. Please ask the developing team about this issue with tether. In my case, it's a commercial shoot. It's necessary to see results on the camera immediately without playback. Yeah, if you can, I'm just gonna say RSK. If you can drop that as a comment under the video, that'll just help me be able to reference it, so I don't have to go back through the time slots of like watch the video again to find where your comment is on it. Rhett says, I'm pretty sure it does get charged via USB-C in battery grip. I'm actually doing it right now. 80% sure at least. Yeah, good. I'll also checking in on my side. I don't really charge over USB-C that often. I use just the dock charger for it. Yeah, so. Where were we? How's everybody else's day going? Is anybody viewing this in vertical? I would love to know if you are watching this vertically. Drop a comment, or drop a comment in the chat, because I really don't know if this vertical thing is doing anything. At least I don't. My dashboard doesn't show me if it's actually doing anything as far as where it's being delivered. Now it is in a preview version of it, so who knows? I know we've talked about turning subject detection on and off with the FN button, which you can do, but only while the recording, while not recording with the FN. However, you can do it with the back button, AF, with the back button or back AF button. Oh, all right. I'll have to take a look at that, and I'll let the engineers know. Sometimes, like certain function buttons, when they look at what is going to be mapped to them, sometimes, honestly, in a lab, in some basic testing, certain things don't seem to make sense, but then when y'all actually get the cameras in your hands, sometimes your use cases and feedback are what push it over the edge to be like, oh, okay, yeah, we can do that. David says, what's the easiest way to name files on the card for, say, popping in a few cards and format through different shoots so file names don't start over, if that makes sense? Easiest way for file names. So for those that have not seen, this is just a temporary way that I'm setting this up, so I can show this on mobile as well, though we'll see if this actually does anything. So, file naming. So, file naming on the cameras, so you have file number reset, which would just straight up reset the numbers, but it looks like easiest way to name files on the cards for, say, popping in a new card and format the different shoot. So I think the easiest way is honestly gonna be, it's not really super easy. It's gonna be involving a couple clicks. It's going into the menu, go to file format, create a new folder. This would let you reset the numbering of it as well. So if I do folder file settings, here I would do user setting for the file names, or for the file names, and then do create a new folder, hit OK. It says create a new folder there. that's probably what I would do. The other option is, so if you're doing something like if you're doing some like volume photography type work, take a look at what we're doing for volume photography with the SFU VP1 unlock for the, I think it's the S5II cameras. That allows you to do things like barcode scanning and stuff like that. So I would recommend taking a look at that and see if that might address what you might want to do, David. It just kind of depends. Now, again, that's designed for like volume photography. So like if you're working and like you photograph high school sports, or where you're doing tons of images and you need identifiers for, you know, each student or each person, that kind of thing, that's where that kind of stuff works. So Kate says, does the S1II use any pixel binning or line skipping in any of these modes? 4K 120, full frame HD 120, full frame HD 240. I think so. No, no. I'd have to check. I'm honestly not sure, Kate. I'll have to take a look and see. So, would love a 16 to 35 2.8 in the future. I would too. I have no idea if that's going to come on our side. XY 3.3 and 4.7K. Thanks. XY, is that referencing from your question before? Where was your question or your comment? Hi, could you make all the resolutions in 2430 FPS be in full frame on the S1 and S1R2? I understand if it was readout speed limitations. If not, it would be nice to have consistency. And then down here you say 3.3 and 4.7K. Well, maybe I'm still not kind of understanding. Okay, I think I understand. Because, like, on some of the cameras, the, like, 4.7K or some of those are only for high frame rate. It'd be interesting. I'll ask the engineers about that for some of the slightly more obscure 4:3 and 3:2 ratio, or actually 4:3 ratio modes. If you're doing requests, if I could make one of the dials set minimum shutter speed and aperture priority, I would be so happy. Could be an interesting idea. Is using Flow app to use phone as a monitor compatible with S5II, or am I just doing something wrong? It's not compatible with the S5II at this time. It will be getting compatibility for S5II, S5IIX, and GH7. I just don't have dates or anything like that yet that I can share with everybody. But it is coming. Don't worry. We have not forgotten about it. The S1II Series and the GH7 will be getting Lumix Flow support. Just need a little bit more time. Imagine listening to all of this if you were a 77-year-old Grammy. Love my Lumix Micro Four Thirds. Been with you from your first year on Micro Four Thirds. I have a G1, G5, G9 Mark II. Wrapping my head around the G9 Mark II now. Yeah, it's a lot. There's been so many advances over the last close to 20 years that we've had cameras, at least in the market. So yeah, like it's a lot. For the G9 Mark II, I can highly recommend, if you're wrapping your head around that camera and you're looking for a really good resource, I would take a look at Image Maven over on YouTube. She's got some amazing content, both on the original G9, working with the G9 II, and some of the other cameras as well, and a wealth of knowledge on some of that stuff as well. So, FC says, are there specs for proportions of zoom ring angle to focal length? I can dolly zoom from 12 to 25 range on my premium 12 to 60 f2.8 4. Not sure what makes Leica special. Specs for proportion of zoom ring angle to focal length. I can dolly zoom on the 12 from 12 to 25 range on your 12 to 60, 2.8 to 4. Not sure what makes Leica special. I mean, all of it's digitally controlled. So like the lenses know where the zoom range is and vice versa. So as you're like, if you're trying to do a dolly zoom on the lens and you've got, you know, everything kind of hooked up, the bigger thing's honestly just setting your setting linear manual focus at that point, because then it's a repeatable thing. If it's in variable or just kind of the, you know, traditional way, then yeah, you're all speed rated for that. So Rhett says favorite Lumix Prime, the 100mm f2.8 macro. That is 100% my favorite. Well, that's my favorite modern Prime. Outside of that, my favorite is actually three of them. It's these two, and then the one that I have on the inside of my arm. So that's a 15 Summilux. I always get this wrong. If I remember right, this is the 12 Summilux, and this is the 42.5. I might have them backwards. I honestly forget at this point. I just know that these are the three in micro four thirds. These are my three favorite lenses. In full frame, it's the 100mm 2.8 macro. Oh, we do have some people watching in vertical. That's awesome. Cool. Hopefully it works great for you. Yeah. All right, there's at least two people I see. My chat just jumped all the way to the bottom. So, hey, at least two people are watching it, and that means that I'll probably keep doing this then, as long as the system lets me do it. Anything that helps. Let's see here. Any news on Lumix Flow? We just talked about that. I don't have any updates just yet. A little bit more patience for adding support for S5II, S5IIX, and GH7. Can you say what the minimum write speed of an SD CF card for photos should be? Is faster always better, or is there a point where it doesn't matter? For photography wise, I think the minimum that you would want to use in any of the cameras is likely to be V60. It's for a couple of reasons. One, anything lower than V60, typically, one, you're dropping in size of the card. Like, it's rare to see like 128 gig V30 cards, right? Usually they're just going to be V60. Aside from whether or not the camera can utilize the full speed of it, that's not always the number one thing I believe to factor in. It is a factor for sure. The other side of it is that, like, hey, I want to offload my photos and videos. I want to be able to not have to sit for hours waiting for them to offload. That's where the faster cards, that's where, you know, going to higher data rate CF Express cards or going to V60, V90 SD cards are going to come into play. The cameras, to my knowledge, no camera can actually utilize the fastest speeds that cards and all that stuff can, like, kind of utilize. So in general, I highly recommend stick around like V90 if you're running an SD card camera. V90 if you want to just know that everything's going to be fine. V60 if you're not going to record anything over like 400 megabit per second. If you're in the video side, if you're in photo, V60 is fine. In some cases, on cameras that have lower frame rates, like frame rate per second, V30 can be okay. And we do have validated cards that are in that. Just know that you're going to be giving up on the video side of it if you're using V30. CF Express cards, as long as you're buying let me rephrase this. For CF Express cards, I highly recommend you just stick to what the validated list gives you for CF Express cards. I know there are a bunch of brands. I know that there's a lot of options out there, but I can tell you CF Express has such a massively wide variance of performance and quality and reliability. The ones that we have validated, we have tested, we know are going to work for photo, for video, for all the different capabilities that we have, and we will tell you the ones that don't like of the cards, like what modes they may or may not work in. Yeah, that's kind of where we are as far as cards go. Gear says, TT Artisan just released small 40mm f2 AF L-mount lens. I wish so much that Lumix had released it, even if it were plastic and twice the cost. It's decent size for the S9, just saying. I would challenge the idea that if we did release a lens like that that was twice the money and still plastic, that y'all would buy it. I think people would find a reason to complain and hate on it. They do it already. They do it for every brand. So, cool. TT Artisan lens exists. I haven't seen it or had hands on it, but yeah, could be cool. Andy says, thanks for answering so many questions today. I think these live streams make Lumix stand out over other camera companies. Awesome. I'm glad people find use in this or find, benefits for it. I love doing them. I love being able to just chat and talk with y'all. To be fair, it's incredibly informational for me. I learn a lot from you guys as well, or from everybody in the chat as well. There's things that, I have predisposed tendencies for, and a lot of times, someone in this chat will mention a different use case of something, and it does get me thinking to kind of explore different avenues of, image creation or ways to execute certain things, and hopefully that happens vice versa with you. So thank you all for the questions and the comments. It's awesome. S1II, when setting white balance with white set capture, would it be possible to see the actual Kelvin value on the camera's choosing? It has a tiny number set to white balance icon. I have asked for this numerous times before. I don't know why we don't do it. If it's just that there's not enough people that have asked or demanded for it. Drop that. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record. Drop that down in the comment after this video is posted, because I can reference it then. That it's not just something I'm saying I want to see, that y'all are saying you want to see. So let's see here. What's the best option to tether / monitor an S5II for outdoor shoots with a tablet or a phone while shooting everything on camera? Well, it depends on what you mean by tethering. The best because it only works on the S1II series. On the S1II series, you could use Capture One Mobile on an iPhone. It doesn't work on Android, which is really annoying to me. But if you're just looking as a monitor, I mean, a simple Shinobi 2 or something like that would be really good. It's a really nice bright monitor. It's relatively inexpensive. As far as monitors go, I prefer sticking to the Portkeys monitors are nice. At least I think they are. The Blackmagic monitors, the Atomos monitors. If you just need monitor and you don't need to be able to record with it, it'd be like the Shinobi or some of the other Shinobi or like the Portkeys monitors. I don't have a lot of experience with SmallRig, or not SmallRig, Small HD. I honestly don't even know if they still make monitors. That's how out of touch I am with some of that stuff. But yeah, there's plenty of options that you end up having there. Regarding the high-res mode, I mean that I can't find out a way to change the settings on high-res mode when I am in it. I have to go to the menu for it. Oh, okay, Andy. Yeah, so, I mean, the way our system is set up, with cameras that have the mode dial to put into high-res mode, is that when you put it into that mode and you push the menu button, it should just automatically go to the high-res menu. Otherwise, your high-res menu is going to be under the photo options on either the first or second page. It's either going to be the bottom of the first page or at the top of the second page. I don't think there's much other ways to do it. Yeah. Is it Hansa? Did you tag at Lumix USA for your question? If you don't, I may not see it. I'll look quickly here to see if I saw your question. Hi, I don't know this question was already asked, but I love S1II, but do you know the overheat? Will there be some firmware update solving that? Solving this. Thank you. We're always looking at to ways to improve the camera's performance and take user feedback into it. I don't have any information at this time as far as like what is or isn't being looked at. If anything does come up, we will obviously talk about it here on the stream. So, yeah. As for folder, can you please increase the number of photos in one folder to 10,000? Just a UX improvement, not to combine a lot of folders of photos in post-production. That's not something we control. That's DCIM. That's the actual file structure that DCIM follows. It stops at 9,999 from what I've been told. You'd have to switch to a different file structure for it, or have a version of that deployed. Please add 65 by 24 on the G9 Mark II. From what I've been told, it's not possible. 4.3 sensor, you'd be cutting so much down into the resolution, and you also run into some potential problems with where the AF points are and all of that kind of stuff. So the Micro Four Thirds cameras won't have 65 by 24. Dear Lumix Tech Overlords, open gate 60 FPS full sensor on the GH7, even if it melts after 10 minutes. Probably not going to happen. One, I think it's a processing thing, because the full sensor height, the resolution, all that kind of stuff at 60 FPS I don't think is possible. Downsampled, you wouldn't change any of that. And as I just answered on the other one, if there was ever a thermal challenge on that camera, people would be up in arms and lose their proverbial stuff over it. D says, hope all is well. Feature request, can Panasonic Lumix purchase Ari? Just kidding. That would be interesting. But honestly, no idea. Tom says, I format the card in camera, but then I rename the card on Windows PC. I use a name related to the shoot, but keep it at 11 characters or less for compatibility with other computers. Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know if that's something we'd be able to do in the camera. I know that there's certain kind of like rules that have to be followed, depending on like the file structure stuff. So I think that's why we're limited in the naming that we have for the folders, so that everything actually works the way it's supposed to as far as metadata and things like that goes. Is it possible to program the lens FN button to focus at minimum focus distance, 24 to 60 lens? Not per se. The lens focus button, let me change over here. So I have the 24 to 60 on this camera here. So if I press and hold the lens focus or the lens FN button, it opens into the menu, and I can scroll down. The closest thing that you would get for this would be AF on near shift. It's not going to do closest focus for it. It's just going to prioritize the near field for focusing. So I think that's about the most you'd get for that. Is a BS1H Mark II coming? Again, I've said this before. If there was anything future planned or products, even if I did know them, I couldn't talk about them. Oh, okay. I meant monitoring the pictures off camera like a tablet or phone. Well, so you could use... if you're on... Well, no, because again, that's S1II Series. Tethering or monitoring them like you would for a general tether, I don't think there really are any good options for the S1II Series. In general, like, I think we do have to remember, in general, most people recognize us as a video-specific brand. That does not mean that we don't care about photographers. In fact, our cameras have some of the most unique photo functionality available. We're the only full-frame camera still doing things like live view composite. We were one of the first, and still, I think, one of the best implemented high-resolution shot modes in the camera. Tethering is one of those areas that I think it's a bit more specialized, not to diminish its value. But if the vast majority of people aren't using or asking for that, it's a lot harder to justify the resources into doing something that a relatively small portion of users are going to utilize that's out of our kind of normal wheelhouse. Does that mean that it's always going to stay like that? Hell no. The more people that actually voice how you use our cameras, the more photographers that use our cameras and actually tell us about it. This is honestly one of the things that I think photographers in general, from an online visibility perspective, photographers are harder to understand from what is said online. Many photographers don't record video to share what they do or show what they do online, because it's either not necessary, it's just a different overall setup. A lot of photographers also are very resistant to video in general, so it's a different skill set, that kind of thing. But if you are a photographer and you use our cameras for studio work, or you need things like tethering, or there's certain functionality from a photography perspective that is just not working for you, this is going to sound super selfish on this, but comment on these videos. Comment after this video is posted, after any of our other videos are posted. Tell us how you're using your camera. Get your voice heard. Video users, I think, have a much easier way to get their opinions and their voices out to companies because they work in a visual mode that is video. It's much easier to digest. Photography, because we work in what I would argue is maybe a little bit slower of a pace. We're not stringing a bunch of photos together for video, that kind of thing. Sometimes that messaging can get lost. So the more you interact with a brand, the more you comment on social posts. Like if you go over on our Discord and you comment in there, in our Q&A and our suggestions, and get your use case heard, the higher the likelihood is that a company's going to recognize that, hey, maybe at face value, it doesn't seem like there's a ton of people that are interested in this because either we don't hear from them or it's just not something that online is easily seen. The more you let us know in these platforms, the easier it is for people like Matt and myself to share that information to them, so that it's not just saying, hey, trust me, I've talked to a couple of people. It's, no, look, here's proof. These are the people that are saying, like, hey, I would love to use your product, but hey, you don't have X, Y, and Z. It's all just ammunition that helps us have those conversations to help build better products for you, the users. All right, it's almost 5 after. We got a little bit of time left. Let's do like 5 more questions here. Where could we get sick Lumix gear like the shirt you're wearing? Work for Lumix at this point right now. Unfortunately, yeah, we don't have merch for sale. I would love to have merch for sale, honestly. That like Lumix gear, the water bottles, I have the one of the Peak Design custom embroidered bags that has Lumix written on it. Not to brag, but yeah, some of that stuff I think would be really cool to have. And he says, okay, I have my menu set that it always opens the last active menu point. Then it does not open the high rate menu. Thanks. Info. Yeah, that's likely what it is, Andy. The other option you could always do too, and this is something that I've started to actually do more often with my cameras, is I set the my menu functions. So if I go in to my menus, you can go into my menu here and you can set custom options. Like these are the things that I use most on the cameras. And then if you go into the setup for it, I can go to display from my menu so that now when I press menu, it always goes to that particular menu. So say I'm in here, I'm changing some stuff there. I go out, I push the menu button, and it starts back here. That's, I think, one of the more underutilized features with the camera. I can set this to show up to 3 pages of just the things that I want and I need to edit in my camera. And then I can tell the camera, always go back in, and when I press the menu button, bring me here. I don't want to go to where I was last. I don't want to go to the general menus. I just want to go to the My menu for the stuff that I know I need access to. It can make things so much easier in some cases for you. Let's see here. 60p, 16:9, 5.8K at least. We can ask. That one I even don't know if is possible. For that. Have you considered having most requested features board that we can upvote so you know how to prioritize requested features? We have considered it before. I'll chat with the team and I'll see, like, hey, maybe that's something that could be good to have over, like, on Discord, if it's relatively easy to kind of set up. The problem is also YouTube review friends all shoot video. None of them shoot stills with your cameras, which makes it even more problematic for us stills photographers to get hurt. So you're definitely right. So this is actually more of an industry problem. So the reference here, for those that may not have seen the questionnaire, is that, hey, a lot of the people that camera brands and we work with are more video leaning. And that's definitely true. The fact is, there are not a lot of photographers that actually have YouTube channels, or that have YouTube channels that are very visible outside of a very specific niche. And, that always kind of causes, it's a, kind of chicken and the egg thing, or catch-22, right? It's, if you're a photographer and you're trying to build a YouTube channel and build, a massive following that, is reached by a lot of people, or has reached to a lot of people, they're kind of like unicorns on YouTube. There's a couple. I'm not saying that there aren't, YouTube channels that are very specific into photography, but YouTube has this tendency, or content on YouTube has this tendency, that it may start as photography, but then the vast majority of content consumed is video, or it's about video topics. So a lot of people that start a photographic channel end up transitioning to cover video topics, because that's what actually gets viewership and gets engagement. So people tend to chase engagement on YouTube. It's rare that you see specifically photographic channels. And again, they do exist. There's a lot of amazing creators out there, and in this case photographers, that have great YouTube channels, and we do work with them. A lot of them are over in Europe. But in the US, it's definitely a lot more rare. And it's usually dominated by pretty traditional mentality photographers. A lot of people that have invested a ton of money into their particular system, and they don't have an interest of changing. Or if they do, it's really, really hard to kind of connect the dots for a lot of people. So it's not that we don't try. I try all the time. I try to work with as many photographers as we can, because I am at heart a photographer. I love photography more than I love videography. But at the same time, I do this. And a lot of times photographers, I know this is painting with a really broad stroke here, a lot of times as photographers, we're not necessarily the most comfortable in front of camera. So recording or talking about what it is that we do tends to be a little bit harder. And same with videographers as well. It's true for everybody. But I would encourage, if you are a photographer and you have something to say, make a channel. Do something on social media, do shorts, do, full-length videos, whatever, but do it as more of like a passion not necessarily a business. And the general kind of idea that, like, hey, if you want to do something on YouTube, stick to what you love to do. Stick to what you want to do. Don't necessarily get taken away by the algorithms. I'm in a weird position that, you know, I do want to chase some of the algorithms as well, because we want this channel to grow and be seen by more people. But I think we've got a good almost 6-year track record of we're sticking to what we like to do on this channel, and that's provide you all information and give you an opportunity to actually talk with us. Yes, we've evolved some things with it. But as photographers, or photographers that are honestly even interested in working or talking about other cameras, it's kind of hard. You have a handful of people that I would say are very set in their ways when they want to talk about products, so they don't actually really give solid reviews of products, if that makes sense. There's a lot of that still in this industry, and I think some fresh points of view could be a great thing, especially from the photographic side, and we would happily support and look to expand more into that category. But at the same time, we're not really a sports photography or wildlife company. We have capabilities to do that, but a lot of times the YouTube content that you see online is very leaning towards wildlife and sports, at least that I see. So if you have recommendations of your favorite photographer, drop them in the comment section. I would love to take a look, because I'm not going to ever claim to know that I know everybody out there online. Like I said earlier, sometimes y'all teach me some amazing things and point out some really, really cool stuff. And hey, I'm not ashamed to admit if somebody recommends looking at some other kind of creators. Hey, if they're cool, they're cool. I don't care if it was, you know, a recommendation from somebody else. If it's cool, let's see where it goes. I have given some great recommendations of some photographers and YouTubers that have been wanting to test some products. Sadowska is great. I don't know if y'all have connected yet. She's eager. We can definitely. I'll take a look through and see. Yeah, you have a team member that's also specialized. Yeah. MP4 Lite 3.8. Any when I edit, I do a little zoom because there's black in both sides. And your option for full view without zoom. It's really slow process if I shoot 1080 50p. Well, 3.8K MP4 Lite is a 3:2 ratio. So it's doing what it's supposed to. You're supposed to crop out. It's not that there's black bars on the side. It's that it's recording 3:2 so that you take a 16:9 chunk out of it, or 9:16 out of it. So it is working the way it's supposed to. All right. It is almost 1:15 here. I am going to wrap the stream up. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. Hopefully this vertical, horizontal streaming thing worked out well. I'll have to do a lot of more research on it and see. But we did get confirmation that there were some people viewing it. We will be back next Thursday. Yes, we will be back next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. As a little bit of programming update, the 23rd, so 2 weeks from now, I will not be live streaming from here. We will, hopefully, though, have a live stream that goes live either on the 24th, or a recorded stream. Those of you that are out in the LA region, if you haven't already, take a look at the Lumix Connect event that we have happening on the 21st, 22nd. Wow, I am terrible that I don't know the actual date on that. I just know when I have to get to LA for it. But anyway, go check us out over on Discord. Link is down in the description. There's information about Lumix Connect. That is our event that is happening out in the Los Angeles area. Hopefully this is the first of many. If it is something that you all want to see, let us know. Again, join us over on Discord. We have the conversations happening over there. There are links to get yourself registered to join that event. Yeah, outside of that, we will be back again, like I said, next Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube. Check us out over on Discord. Follow us on Instagram. All that fun stuff if you don't already. And get out there, create some cool stuff. Share it with us. All that kind of fun crap. This outro just completely went off the rails, so let's call it there. Later, everybody.